Good morning, everyone, and welcome to
Hey.
Career Launch Live. I am your host, Katherine McCord, owner of Titan Management, and we have with us today my lovely sister, Michaela McCord, who is, in fact, a psychology and counseling major. Yay! To
Yay.
talk about mental health.
I'm so excited
Hooray!
for this episode. I'm so glad that you've chosen me to co-host. I'm thrilled.
I can't wait. I am really excited today. We are going to have some wonderful guests. So we're going to have Scott Frieda hopefully on here in the next few minutes. I was hoping he'd already be logged on. He's going to pop on real quick and talk about some cool stuff he's doing with recovery. We're going to have Anna Morgan, who we all know and love very much, the career BFF. We're going to have Jan Barlow, a wonderful HR disruptor. We're going to have Rubaica Fidvi. I hope I said her last name right. Another psychology professional. We're going to have Alma with us, who is as well. And then we're also going to have Emily McHugh, who works with female entrepreneurs. So
Wow.
fantastic lineup.
Yeah, we have a really great lineup today.
We do. I am really excited about it. But first and foremost, how are you in general? We're talking about mental health today. So I think we should start off with something healthy, like asking how someone else is. So how are you?
I'm actually really glad that you're starting off with that. I'm going to give a very honest response because I believe in giving honest responses. A lot of times people just say, "Oh, I'm good, I'm all right," and that's not very descriptive. So I want to give a little bit of a description to sort of start us off today. And yesterday was I it was both like it was one of those days where you had a bunch of positives. Like I was really happy and excited in a lot of ways, and there were some other things yesterday that were really stressful. And
Same.
yeah, and so I think that this is a place where we could sort of talk about that. And I'm not going to get into great detail, but I just mean just talk about that these things can coexist.
Yes.
It wasn't just one. It did, and the stress didn't ruin my whole day because there was
Right.
still a lot of really great things that happened, and I was able to help a lot of
Good.
people. I was able to be there, and today I was able to sleep in. So I right now
Good.
am feeling rejuvenated, rested, having some sinus problems. So please forgive me for the sneezing and the
Oh,
sniff
me
that
too.
you'll hear.
Last episode, I was like, it was so gross. It was not attractive, man. It was really bad, and I didn't realize how bad it was until I heard the recording later. But I want to go ahead. I think we have Scott in the waiting room. I'm very excited to bring Scott on. So, guys, you've actually heard me talk about this guy on the show before. This is Scott Frieda. He has owned multiple financially based companies. He was actually one of my first clients when I started Titan 7 years ago. He used to be the manager to our now COO, Joel Knapp. But he's doing some really cool stuff with recovery, and that's what we're here to talk about. So let's bring on Scott. Hey, what's up?
Hey.
Hey, thanks for having me. Good to be with you.
Absolutely. We're so excited to have a TikTok star. So we have a little
Right?
TikTok star on right now. This guy right here has so many followers. He has some great videos that he does about recovery. And Scott, I think to me, the most awesome thing about your channel when I finally got on TikTok and checked it out, because I'm scared of new social media,
Right.
is how honest you are about your journey.
Mm-hmm.
And you're really raw with it, and you share some really personal stuff, and share your morning journey and all that. So let's start with what motivated you to start doing these TikTok videos on recovery and mental health.
Well, I had retired young. I got lucky. I was married for a long time, for 20 years, to Tiffany Frieda, my wife. And when we retired, we just got into alcohol. It's really that simple. Drank too much, was in Florida a lot, and that became my life. And everything was integrated around drinking, getting up in the morning, when the liquor store was going to be open, when it was going to be closed, where I was going to go, what I was going to have with me. And even though I was very successful, I was successful financially, but my life was miserable. And so I decided to take action. About 1,200 days ago, I've been sober, and my wife had passed away. Thanks. And in 2015 from alcohol cirrhosis. And it's kind of poetic. Like, now I'm living that life to help others, save others, and help people. It's not just about rah, you can stop drinking alcohol. People have to have a plan People have to have an integrated plan that they're comfortable with, that's really based around confidence and control. Those two things. And then we can slow down the addiction process and the poor choice decisions that we make along those lines and start developing. And that's what choice therapy is about. And that's why I kind of launched TikTok about 6 months ago. And heck, I just got lucky with all these followers. And I really appreciate you adding me to the show here. These glasses, I'll just say, I'm blind in this eye. I have optic neuritis from alcoholism, and I had a stroke. And so I can't see, and I prefer to wear my glasses. And that's kind of my go-to. But this is just, this reminds me of what I have to do every day. So
and I love, I want to kind of circle back because you talk a lot about Tiffany, and who is a beautiful human being. Actually one of the very first mentors I ever had in business, and gave me some fantastic advice that I still follow to this day.
Right on.
And you talk a lot about her and share that journey. Is that something that is therapeutic for you as well? I know it helps other people. Does it help you to share that? Well,
that's a really good question. I haven't thought much about that. You know, I would at first blush say, not really. It's just I have to continue to get better, and the better, you know, it's just so simple. We have to stay busy, right? But we want to stay busy with things that make us progressive, that make us feel good. I don't want to feel bad, so I don't want to think about it. And it's not a matter of me just forcing it, sitting in a room, not thinking about my wife. If it comes up, then I'll share that. But my journey is to help other alcoholics. I couldn't help my wife. So, you know, my goal is to just distance from that, learn from it. That sounds a little brutal, but I live it every day, right? And so, in theory, but so ideally,
that I didn't mean to cut you off. That motivation, and you shared entrepreneurship together, right? So, and I've noticed some of the followers that you have, and you have a lot of professionals that follow you.
Yeah,
and,
I went after,
and share that journey.
Well, I went after, so to answer your question, I think of Tiffany all the time. She is the inspiration behind this, right? And it really gives me, I feel really good deep down, because I need that. I need to feel good every morning. And my choice therapy, not only do I push the choice therapy, which we'll get into, but I utilize it myself. And it's work, but that's what it takes, right? It takes some work.
100%. And do you think that for other entrepreneurs, is choice therapy maybe something, or just recovery in general? Let's just be real general about it. Do you think that it's important for other entrepreneurs to have that support system with other entrepreneurs going through recovery, or is it more just about finding whatever program works for you?
Well, I mean, I think most people kind of have what they have. So when I come in, I just want to add value to that. I don't suggest people walk away from AA or step away from that. My program basically uses mathematical modeling and neuroscience, which is psychobiology, and it pattern breaks those addictive processes, not just with alcohol, but with food and the way we treat our spouse. And I really focus on the spouse because I was married. So my program deals around food, eating healthier, risk management throughout the day. And of course, we work. So a lot of people are now working at home. And what are we close to? We're close to making bad decisions at home because we're more confined. So what we want to do is broaden our abilities to just make decisions throughout the day, and to not repeat those. We're going to make poor choices, but if we can minimize those poor choices, but at the same time, distract, but do things that are enjoyable. And so a lot of the choice therapy is to develop morning routine at night between 9 and 1 o'clock usually, so that if somebody's drinking 3 beers, we'll get them to drink 2 beers. We'll get them to drink 1 beer, but we're going to have them focus on different things that they can go, holy cow, I'm really starting to feel a difference. And while I'm doing this, I'm getting along with my wife. The last part of the movie, we didn't have to drink alcohol. I actually enjoyed the movie.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love that.
I actually have a quick question, if that's okay.
Yeah, please.
So when you refer to choice therapy, are you talking about reality choice therapy by William Glasser?
No, not choice theory. Choice therapy. Yeah, that's choice theory. Smart girl. Wow, you really.
Well, it's my passion. I'm just curious.
Wow, I honestly are extremely surprised that you just mentioned that, but I'm not very familiar, but
I was curious if there's parallels between what you're doing
absolutely,
and okay.
absolutely,
There
and
absolutely are.
so one of the other programs that part of choice therapy is a thing called 1+something. Okay, and the 1+something is a value add. So I'll use a food experiment for example. When we take something negative away from our salad, whether it's blue cheese or avocado, we go on the other spectrum and we add something positive. So we get rid of something, a fat, we add a positive, and in the middle is the balance. But we have to, and so we have to force behaviors throughout the day that then become natural, and that's choice therapy. That's really
amazing. That's amazing. And
if we continue to force, just like we go to AA, and AA could be such a better environment, in my opinion, for people if they just open up and are willing to learn from it. But so I want people to develop so they can go back into AA and have confidence and speak up and be part of the group and be proud to be part of AA and be part of the new community that's helpful.
Pride is crucial in recovery. Absolutely. And thank you, Scott, for coming on and talking to us about this. Yeah. We're actually going to talk about this more later with Anna Morgan, who
this is my first call. I hope I did good. And you mentioned
you did wonderful. So thank you so very much for joining us, Scott. Check out Scott on TikTok. He is under Scott Frida. It's so easy to find him, and so find him there. Check out the videos, and if you want to learn more about choice therapy, definitely comment, and he will reach out to you. So thank you again so much, Scott, for coming.
Thanks, ladies. Hey, good luck. Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you. All right, now we're going to bring on the one, the only Miss HR Disruptor herself, Miss Jan Barlow.
Yay.
There she is. Hello.
Hey, ladies, thank you so much. It's so wonderful to be together again.
I am
with you.
so excited to have you on. And I just want to say I loved hearing about Scott's program because people underestimate, and mental health recovery is part of mental health. It is. Recovery can be from anything, guys. It's not just drugs and alcohol. Like he said, overeating, abuse, all kinds of things. There's all kinds of different recovery and changing life patterns. Michaela, what are your thoughts about that?
It's a healing journey. What we're really talking about here is healing, and I really liked what Scott said about finding your own path. That's what it's really about, is finding what works for you to heal, what you need to heal. And that's a journey that is very amazing, very difficult, very trying, and all around wonderful to take.
Yes, it is. It is. And so Jan, you and I have talked about mental health. We met because of a mental health post, right?
Yes, I love it. You know, when I think about Michaela, when you said about journey, I think about when I transitioned from my position back in 2008, crash and burn. You talk about palms peeling, hair falling out, trying to fit a round peg in a square hole. And, hello, can you please give me better living through chemistry here? It was a situation where I didn't even know I was going through adrenal burnout. So we think it's all in our head. Well, that's where everything is, right? I mean, our reality starts in your head, right? Your perception.
100%. Yeah.
So, just even through people experiencing job transition, I mean, that just created a domino in my bubble. So when you were so authentic,
100%.
Catherine, in your post, and that was that like-mindedness to come together, and Michaela, you geek out. You and I geeked out on the phone about mental and neuroscience. I mean, we could sit here and talk all day about that, right?
It's fascinating, and I think, and I love that we're talking about the journey of it. And I want to relate this to work. So, as Jan talked about, the first we're going to talk about today with Jan, job seekers and people that are currently employed and the stresses that they're feeling and what we can do about it, right? Because that's the whole point here, is to talk about how you can get help. And
when you get scrambled, right? I mean, when you're in job transition or you get any change, because the brain is wired to resist, right, Michaela? I mean, that's how we're dialed in. And so when you're in transition, for like 90 days, you feel like you're all scrambled.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. And I think, Michaela, I want to get your opinion on this. So when people are having these, you're stressed, you don't know where your next paycheck's coming from, all of these different things going on. What are some of the symptoms that you would think would be most common? And then how can people get resources to help?
Anxiety and uncertainty, like Jan said, scrambled. I think that was a good word to use.
That is a good word.
Very descriptive word to use for this situation, because what's going to happen is there's going to be a certain amount of panic for the ability to be able to provide for oneself, especially if it goes on for, like you said, months. So there's definitely going to be a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety. Depression can also hit when we, I've talked about learned helplessness a lot, and I think it applies here too. That dynamic that hits when you try and try and try, and you still cannot find ways to do for yourself and fulfill your own needs.
Right.
And as far as resources, I don't. Do you want me to talk about counseling resources or just things in general you can do?
In general, let's start with in general, because
Okay.
not everybody wants to start with counseling. So what are some other resources that they can use?
A lot of times it sort of goes back to, again, what Scott said, is finding what helps you heal, what helps you personally on your own path, in your own world. So I guess the place to start is with yourself. Just sit with yourself and figure out what you need. And that can be difficult to do. And that's why people usually seek out counseling, because it's difficult to know what you need without the other person sort of as a mirror. And clients a lot of times will sit with me and say, why didn't I realize that? And I'm like, because you can't see yourself. I'm sitting here seeing the whole of the world that you're sort of blind to. So yeah, I'll stop talking now and just sort of like I'll feed off of that. But that's those are my thoughts as of right now.
That's exactly what you said, Michaela. That's what I always tell people. You can't be, first of all, it's called self-perception theory. We cannot be objective about ourselves. Plain and simple. So don't try. Don't get into the ego. Oh, I know myself. Yes, you know the 5%, but we're not we're not made to be objective about ourselves. It is what it is, right?
Right. And I think now I want to get into too on the other side, right? So Jan, you and I both work on the other side, have or are currently working on the other side of the hiring desk, right?
Yeah.
And I've had not only my own mental health, concerns that have come up, but I've worked with employees that had some very detrimental things happen to them. Spousal loss, a child with drug problems. That's very stressful for a parent. I can't even imagine. I've seen, all kinds of different symptoms come up, trauma, severe PTSD. When I say severe, people have all different ideas in their head about what PTSD looks like. And I have seen it caused from different things, both from veterans and also from other types of trauma. Some people think PTSD is only for veterans. It's not. PTSD can be from all different types of trauma.
You can get into an accident, a car accident, and you automatically have it, right? I mean,
absolutely. And sexual assault. I've had to walk an employee through that on the professional side. That was a tough one. So I want to talk about what we can do on this side of the desk to help the other person. So Jan, do you have any examples, stories about this?
Thank you so much, first of all, for caring enough to bring this topic up. And, what I first think about is when I worked at a large pharmaceutical company, it had great culture when it came to that. Being able to have those people within your organization that you can go to and trust, and meaning just your relationships that you have with people. I was very fortunate that I had 2 or 3 mentors in the company. And when I was going through a divorce, I could go sit down and say, look, I need I need to go to lunch because I need to share something with you. Right. But what's interesting, when you talked about PTSD, in 2004, I was living in Florida and we were hit with Hurricane Ivan. So we were out of, the contents of 4 people's homes went through the bottom of my house. So my job, I would travel around the country and, to 15 to 20 days a month. So I was out of the field for 6 weeks. And
Wow.
I called up the director and I said, look, I just want to let you know, yeah, I can drive into town to get on the internet and on the phone. I'll do what I need to do. And he said, Jan, you are going through a bad situation. I'm going to take you off the books. You just stay at home, check in, call in. He said, but emotionally, you need some time. So we're good. I was so blessed to have somebody like that.
That is phenomenal.
But
that is phenomenal.
I have to share with you, though, from the flip side of that, 6 weeks in, we still hadn't had power. We had a generator at the house. So no AC or anything for 6 weeks. A coworker calls and said, hey, Jan, wanted to see what's going on. I didn't see your name on the roster for travel. I said, yeah. And she goes, well, what's going on? I said, well, I don't know if you noticed, but yeah, a hurricane, and I got the contents of 4 people's homes in the bottom of my house. And she goes, well, I didn't see anything on CNN about that. I thought, are you flipping kidding me? So the flip side.
So I want to stop. I want to stop real quick. Yeah, I want to stop that real quick because, okay, I will say, devil's advocate here, that I have had some employees tell me some wild stories over the years that were very easily verifiably not true. Okay. I once had somebody try to tell me that they had a major earthquake at their house when I was working in Dallas, Texas. We do not get major earthquakes. Okay. And bless you, Michaela.
Yeah.
And she even muted herself to sneeze. Good one, Michaela. Yeah. So I've heard the whoppers, but first of all, when you initially hear those things, start with compassion, and maybe while you're talking to him, Google it, because then you can go ahead and call him out and go, well, okay, I'm not finding it. Can you tell me where I can locate that? That type of thing. But do not just immediately call someone a liar. Know for a fact that they are before you go there. Okay.
Yeah.
And number 2, when somebody's having a trauma, let me just throw this on out there. And Michaela, please feel free to correct me if I am wrong. It is not helpful to have people attack you over your trauma.
It was
or
not.
to
I disagree. It's actually very beneficial to have somebody gaslight you. And
no, just kidding. Yeah, that was a joke. She was totally joking. Yeah. So that's not helpful. And then the other one that just really boggles my mind are people that think that they're entitled to your trauma.
Oh yeah.
No.
Please elaborate on what you mean by entitled by someone.
In fact, I recently did a video on this. When somebody is going through a trauma, it is okay to ask them how they're doing. Okay. It is not okay to say, tell me about it. No. You are not entitled to details of their trauma or of their recovery process.
And it doesn't help. Okay. When you're making somebody repeat it over and over again, it's not helpful to the person.
You're not an exposure therapist. So don't try to be.
Right. And I understand it's coming from a good place most of the time. Okay. I want to throw that out there, guys. I know you're not trying to be, but I'm telling you, that's why I'm telling you it's not okay. Please do not do that to somebody. You are also not entitled to tell somebody what is and is not a trauma.
Oh yeah,
right. It's not your choice, right? It's not your decision to decide that. Right?
There are, for instance, there are people who find it traumatic if something, and I mean truly traumatic, if something happens to their coworkers while they were away at lunch. Like, let's say somebody breaks in with a gun or something like that, and technically the trauma didn't happen to them personally, but it's traumatic enough just that, oh my God, I could have been there. Oh my gosh, if a loved one goes through something really awful, for instance, we talked about sexual assault earlier, a lot of times the spouse will have trauma over that experience. And so you are not entitled to tell somebody else what is or is not a trauma. What is traumatic for somebody else will not be traumatic for you, and vice versa.
As humans, we all internalize things differently. We all handle things differently. We all have our own inner worlds, and there is no way to determine whether or not someone has a right to be traumatized by something. And I wanted to mention real quick that I very much appreciate what each one of you is saying, both Katherine and Jan, about just listening, just being there to listen and support. It's not about fixing it. And that's something I really want to talk about today. So often, and you sort of mentioned this earlier, Jan, that as humans, we really just, we want to sort of stay away from things. Like we want to stay away from pain. And so when we see someone in front of us in pain, our go-to is what we try to do for ourselves a lot and just fix it.
Right.
And so when you're talking, Jan, about your story with your boss giving you so much support and saying you take your time, that's someone who's not trying to fix it. That's someone who's there to support you.
Right.
Oh, go on.
Sorry, Michaela, I want to get Jan's, because we only have a few more minutes with Jan. So I want to ask her about that along what you're saying. So Jan, as somebody who's also then had to manage others and all of that, how do you handle an employee when you find out that an employee has had some kind of trauma, and how do you help them through that in the workplace?
I got to tell you, what that example of what was done for me was huge. And that was back in 2004. And the couple of employees that I have worked with, I just mirrored the same thing. I made sure that I stayed engaged and asked, as far as, is there anything, not how you're doing, but is there anything that I can do that you need that I might be able to help with? And, or and sending a text message, sending an email, checking in on you. Is there anything I can do? Just thinking of you. Right. And making sure that that person knows that I'm there for them. But it is difficult. I will say at some point it was difficult for me, because I did want to fix it. I did want to fix it. So I had to pull it back and just remember Chet and how calm and confident and gave me that foundation of trust to allow me to work on it. So it was by example.
Good. And I want to say too, even if you just think that someone might have a trauma going on, please take the time to help them set up a success plan. That's kind of what I call them, a success plans. Let's sit back and talk about, okay, I can tell something's up. You don't need to tell me about it. Remember, because we're not going to ask them about their trauma. We're not entitled to that. But say, here are the things that I've noticed. Let's put something in place to cover this so that you can take care of whatever it is that you need to take care of and start working on this recovery process. I failed like that way as a manager once. There was not a known trauma, but I suspected. I did not put enough effort into that situation, and I failed as a manager with that. And that is the number one biggest regret of my career.
But that boundary, it's difficult, right? There is no
but it's not
win-win.
An excuse.
No, but
it's not an excuse.
But not to minimize how you felt, but it is a fine line.
It is.
It is a very fine line,
because at some point as an employer, they are responsible as an employee to do their job. You are responsible as an employer to take care of the company and your other employees. So yes, it is a fine line. It is. But if you think something's going on, still handle it as though you know there is, just in case. Now, if you figure out later that's not it, okay, then proceed differently. But I would recommend always start from the standpoint of maybe something's going on. Because another time, an employee of mine just suddenly started acting real snippy and rude. I mean, this was like the best guy that came in, got everybody energized every day and all this. And one day just got real snippy and just snarky with everybody. And I called him and I go, dude, okay, what's going on? What's happening? Tell me what's going on. I knew something was wrong. I just knew it. And his wife had tried to commit suicide. And I said, and he didn't have PTO, so he didn't feel like he could call in. I said, get out of here. I will handle it. You will have all of your hours on your check. Go.
Right.
But you come from that softer place.
There's a lot of grace out there. There's a lot of grace out there. We just have to reach out to people and ask for grace, right?
Yeah. And that's a great way to end your segment. That is the best. That's your mic drop. That was your mic drop. Great. There's lots of grace out there. Just remember to ask for it. So Jan, thank you so much for coming. And guys, I have dropped all the links for the people that have come on the show today in the comments today. So if you want to connect with anybody, go through the comments, connect with them on LinkedIn, reach out. Everybody here is amazing. Jan, any final words that you want to say? Past your mic drop, anything you want to promote that's coming up?
Well, coming up, of course, is our HR Disruptor Summit. We're going to have a mental wellness panel event, and also,
I'll
of
be on
course,
it.
yeah, I know, I'm so excited. And also, of course, your amazing ATS system. So I'm excited about that. Really excited about the mental wellness panel. So thanks again, ladies.
Me too. Thank you, Jan. Have a great rest of the day.
Bye.
Bye. I love Jan.
Yeah.
I do. She's so amazing.
Always informative to have her on.
Yeah, and I loved what she said about grace.
Yeah,
I really did. So, and by the way, guys, if there's some technical glitches today, please bear with us. We are having to do our own tech right now. So
we're doing the best we can, you guys.
We're doing the best that we can. Please give us grace, as Jan would say.
Give us grace.
Give us grace. So I want to bring in a new found wonderful connection of whom I am very, very excited. Oh no, my technology is freezing. Emily, I'm not ignoring you, doll. I'm trying very hard to bring you on. My technology has frozen. Oh no.
Oh.
This is not good. You guys, this is so bad. Emily, we're going to get to you just as soon as my technology unfreezes. Michaela, why don't you give us some tips and give me just 1 second to deal with this?
All right, some tips. Well, let me see what I've got here on my my things that I can bring up. So we're talking about trauma in the workplace just then with Jan, and one thing in particular that I heard a lot, and this goes along with what she said about grace, you guys, and that's compassion. Finding abilities, finding ways to be compassionate towards. Oh, you're back.
I hope so. Let's see if Emily can.
Now?
Yay! And we have Emily. We got her. Yay! Sorry for the technical difficulties. We're having to try to run the show ourselves right now until we hire somebody. So,
this is cool.
Welcome on.
Thanks so much.
Hey. And Paola just commented, girl, my trauma was my workplace. Yes, I know your story. And yes, your trauma was your workplace. And that can be the case. And guys, if that's the case, get out.
Yeah, that's an
run.
Issue. Might
get
be
another
reportable.
Might be reportable. Please do report if you can. There are wonderful government agencies. If you want to know who to report them to, please ask me. I will know.
She knows.
I will totally know about that. So, Miss Emily, I met at the Fort Pierce Women's Group. Great group, by the way. And she works with female entrepreneurs. So I'm going to let you, first of all, introduce yourself, Emily, and tell us a little bit about you and what it is that you do.
Well, thank you so much, Katherine and Michaela. It's a pleasure and a privilege to be here with you both today. I wear a few hats. First and foremost, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm an author, and I'm a business coach and consultant. And I'm also the regional director for the Women's Business Enterprise Council of Florida. And I'll start
with a long title,
that, and then I'll work backwards to the other things. So in that capacity, I work with women business owners or women in business to help them get certified as certified women-owned businesses, or also provide professional development and access to resources, business resources, and on opportunities with corporate clients, or corporate opportunities or federal opportunities. And
so I want to pause real quick on that one, because I have a question for you about that on the mental health thing. So I know that from personal experience, becoming an entrepreneur makes you certifiably insane. I mean, really, like you just put a straight jacket on me, put me in a little white padded room for a couple of days and let me work it out emotionally, right? So, I mean, Michaela, you watched my journey. You know what that looks like.
No comment.
I called you up several times and you must be going, what is happening? So, Emily, what are some of the things that you see, well, in your case, it's women, but really just entrepreneurs go through as they're building a business?
Well, it's basically that idea of isolation. When you first start out your business, you are alone by yourself in your head. And you might say, am I crazy?
Scary
Do I
place.
have crazy ideas? Are people going to think I'm crazy? But it's just the fact that you're coming up with something new and different. It takes a time for other people to see maybe what you see, but that doesn't mean you're crazy. So that's number one. So you want to check your own sanity with your own self. And so what happens is, here's the ultimate test now. If whatever product or idea you have, if there's no one willing to buy it, then you must dismiss that idea.
Yeah.
But if
doesn't mean it was crazy, it's just that the market's not ready for you. Yeah.
Say that again. Sorry.
I said it's not that you're crazy. It's just the market wasn't ready for you.
Well, that's
one
one
way.
Or it may not be the time, or it may never be the time. Or
That's
so
right.
you have to be open to that reality.
Right.
But
100%.
But and also it takes. Hey, Michaela, what's that yawning? What are you doing?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm having some health stuff today.
So rude.
Well, I mean,
Okay.
I went to
So
bed at
sorry.
4 a.m. too, so I can understand the feeling. Don't worry.
All of
Don't
us, man. I got no sleep. I had to put on makeup because, guys, I looked like a zombie, and I never wear makeup on screen, but I looked like a zombie, legit.
That is it right there. Let me just pause you on the point of sleep. That is one of the key things that causes a lot of mental trauma for anybody entrepreneur like. We're out there trying to grind, push the envelope, pull the all-nighters, put in that extra. That is a bad idea. You might be able to do it for a short period of time, but it cannot become a way of life.
No, it's not
What
possible.
tends to happen?
No.
Yeah, you're trying to kind of get over that hurdle, and that's all commendable. You have to put in the extra effort, but sometimes you don't know when to stop.
And you have to. You have to cut it off. I do that to myself. And people will ask me, "Oh, can you take a call at 7 p.m.?" Nope. Nope. Because I will become a crazy person.
Boundaries are important.
And also boundaries. Yes, boundaries are important. That is so crucial, guys, for your mental wellness, whether you're an entrepreneur or somebody who is in the workplace. Boundaries. If you have one of those crazy bosses that thinks that you're supposed to just dedicate your whole life to your job, no. Set up those boundaries and go, you have access to me from here to here. And just because they pay you a salary does not mean that they have access to you 24/7 and are entitled to your private time. Nah. And the same thing with your clients, guys. When you're an entrepreneur, cut them off. Now, my clients have access to me 7 days a week via email. Via phone 5 days a week.
Yeah.
That's it. Boundaries.
Well, and go on, Emily. I'm sorry.
No, you go ahead, Mike. No, go.
I was just going to say, all levity aside, I actually was taking a lot of notes while you were talking. I want you to know I was not at all bored by what you're saying, because what you were talking about was very important. You're talking about having strong confidence in yourself and a strong internal compass, and being able to really follow your own dreams and having persistence to be able to do that for yourself. So I wanted to just acknowledge that I really did appreciate what you were talking about then.
Yes.
No, yes. I know. I'm playing with you. And you know, the thing is, but it's a part of how it is that we are running this 24/7 kind of life. And even, you know, with the emails, we can also get into the place where we're constantly checking emails and constantly
you have
doing
to cut it off
too. You have to cut it off, and not only cut it off, but say, I'm not even going to look until a certain time of day, or I'm not going to just knee jerk, pick up my phone and constantly scroll. And you have to habits that we have to train our mind. And as a part of this whole mental trauma and overcoming or maintaining mental care, and I like to call it mind care, because right now we're very busy with self-care. But what part of yourself needs caring? Well, your mind needs special care. Like if you're trying 100%. To build muscles, or you're trying to build your triceps and your biceps, you work on that part. Well, now your mind needs its special regimen as well.
Yeah.
And Paula says it sounds like that we're talking about her. Girl, you're an entrepreneur. We all feel that way. We are all the same. We are all the same. None of us sleep. We are certifiably crazy. I wake up at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, sometimes 5 a.m. with some idea, something I need to deal with, some new thought about something. It is crazy. And I mean, I think the best thing that my husband did for me was he moved my desk into the bedroom and literally nailed it to the wall so that I couldn't put it back. And the reason that he did that is that then I can't wake up in the middle of the night and start working because I was doing that.
Right.
Oh.
And so he said, enough is enough. You need to sleep. You need to get rest. And so he literally nailed my desk to a wall so that I couldn't move it back.
He made the boundary for you.
Yes, he did. He created a boundary, which I really appreciate. To take,
some strict measures to really corral yourself. Because if you know yourself and what you're inclined to do, you have to really, as I said, corral your own self. But I know when I started my company, Custori, we designed stylish travel accessories and tech cases and things like that. working all the time, and I did reach a place of burnout because I didn't take vacation. I didn't a day off. That didn't really exist. I mean, I never work on Saturdays, so that's always my day off. But other than that, as far as a protracted period of time, no, there was no holiday to celebrate. Well, you know, some holidays like that. But the regular holidays that you would take if you were working at a company, I never really observed them. And it starts to take a toll. And I experienced that. So I caution people, if you're an entrepreneur, you have days off. You have holidays. You have, treat yourself like your own employee, what you would do for someone else. Give yourself that self-care that you would give
that
someone
mind
else.
care. Right.
Yeah,
and I wanted to say, so Sophie says, as she commented, she said, so true. Boundaries are tougher now with everyone working from home, but even more important given the struggles people are having with mental health. 100%. Because now we're adding isolation to what was already there. Right. Yeah. And Michaela, you and I have had some good conversations about that, about what the isolation is doing. And Paula, girl, you need to organize. She put I love her. She put a comment. She said, I need to work my muscles, sleep, drink more water, stop checking all of my emails, but I still have 20,000 sitting in my inbox. See, this is how an entrepreneur sounds. This is it. This is how a true entrepreneur sounds. It's one of the things I really like about Paula. So first of all, Paula, you need to meet Dan Irvin. He will get you organized and structure your day. Michaela's smiling because we all love Dan. Yeah, Dan. Shout out to Dan Irvin. That's IRVIN. He is phenomenal. If you want help learning how to structure your day as a leader and as a manager, nobody knows how to do that better than Dan. And he has tons of time with his family and loved ones, but he still stays in touch with everybody because he sets a certain schedule and he does not break it. And I do a similar kind of thing, except I'm a little bit more erratic with it, but along the same lines. So organization is key. When it comes to not feeling isolated, network. And COVID is no excuse. Yeah. God invented LinkedIn. Okay, for us to do
Clubhouse. Hello, Clubhouse.
And Clubhouse. If you have an iPhone.
Fans
if you have an iPhone,
get your iPhone together, because trust me, if you're not on there, you are missing out on something. I will say that. I was
Clubhouse, Zoom, all this kind of stuff, all of this. Get on a show like this and get to know people, talk to people, expand your tribe, expand your network. That's how you keep from going crazy. I have more connections and more friends because of COVID than I did before, because you just evolve. Yeah,
absolutely.
And get out there. And when you can go in person, do it. Even if you're employed. Networking is not necessarily about sales or anything like that. Know the people in your community.
You can never do too much networking at all.
Get to know people, grow, and all that. Michaela, you have something you want to say, dear.
Oh, I've been wanting to ask Emily something, and that is, we've been talking a lot about the mental self-care. And I wanted to know some of your thoughts on how to go about mental self-care.
Good question.
Yes. Well, very good. So you need a strategy and you need a system of how you want to approach it. And just like you're saying, Catherine, the organization. So I find that when I mentioned before about corralling yourself, you have to create systems that work for you. And the key is that work for you. Sometimes people try to force themselves into someone else's planner or someone else's way of doing things. You have to massage it for how you work. So get to know how you work, understand what you're comfortable with, what times of day you tend to be productive, when you really need to just sleep, and not force yourself in directions where you don't go.
Naps are okay. Side note, naps are okay.
Very okay. Absolutely. And then you need to have the strategy for the focus of your business and how you break it down into like 90-day segments, into weekly goals, into just a whole rhythm, this cadence for the year that you want to develop. Yes. And that's one of the things that I do with my coaching, my supercharged coaching. I help people to understand how to put a structure around their business. And it's not just about time management. And I don't call it time management. I call it time allocation, because you can't really manage time. Time is there no matter what you do.
Yep.
I like that. Time allocation.
How you're going, it's like an asset, like asset allocation, which is obviously time is your ultimate asset. And I also encourage people to read my book, The Little Girl's Guide to Entrepreneurship. Hello. And I tell you what I know now that I wish I knew then. Okay. So I put in here the lessons that I learned in my business that I wish when I started, so not to waste time. So I would encourage people, look for ways to really be conscientious of how you spend your time. Are you spending all day doing something that's not resulting in that goal that you have? And because you're busy doesn't mean you're being productive. So
right, 100%.
Really make the distinction between that. I also would say for entrepreneurs, there's a lot of pressure to be successful. And this is just because you have your own business, people automatically assume you're a millionaire or you're rich or, everything's great. And sometimes it could be nothing but as farthest thing from the truth. So people have an impression and people are trying to keep up with this impression that people have of them. And that's where you get this whole imposter syndrome concept coming in. So you have to, one key bit of advice I want to give is know your identity, know who you are, be grounded in yourself and your values that you hold dear, and be true to that. And when you're true to that, you won't be swayed to and fro by the market, by ups and downs here and there. You have that stability within yourself and realize that you are not your business.
Right. 100%. There's the security of being comfortable in your own skin is paramount. And that's a huge thing that will help with your mental health, is to find that security in your identity. Don't compare yourself to others. I tell everyone, I don't care what anybody else in my industry is doing. I'm going to do things the right way, the way that I think they ought to be doing, the way that they ought to be done. That's how I function. I wanted to point out to you real quick, I'm holding up my little kitty cat for those that can't see us, that are just listening. This is Olivia. And this is also a great way to help with your mental health, especially as an entrepreneur. And if you are working from home and you feel isolated and you feel alone, Livy does everything with me. Everything. My shows, she's always in the background. She's on, and she's actually joined some business calls. We're working on that. We're working on that a little bit, but always here, always a great source of stress relief and a good source of being reminded to take a break. Right.
The fear.
So
animals will do that. Remind you.
Animals are phenomenal with that. And they understand your needs. She always comes to me when I'm too stressed. She knows exactly what I need, when I need it, all of that. So just an idea, guys, if you are feeling isolated and alone, have a little fuzzy friend. All right.
Absolutely. I have my Joey. He's not around right now.
I actually wanted to ask you about something else you said there, Emily, because it really resonated with me. And you said being grounded in yourself.
Yes.
And I'd love a little more, I know you only have a couple minutes, but if you wouldn't mind, a little more elaboration on that, because that idea is profound. Because we're not just saying know yourself. Being grounded in yourself means being present with yourself, how you are, just as you are. And that's my interpretation. And I wonder if you would give yours.
Yes. Well, it goes back to your whole identity as a person. So, for example, I was born in England. I grew up in Jamaica. I have Jamaican parents and grew up in New Jersey. I have a great, so I have a sense of my history, where I'm coming from, the heritage that I'm a part of. And when I think of my forefathers, the work they did, I had a grandfather who worked on the Panama Canal, helped to build the Panama Canal. And that was backbreaking work and what it took to do that. And so I feel like I'm the result or the continuation of the legacy of the work done before me. So I am not just by myself in this world struggling along. I have that energy behind me. I also have my faith in God. So I have a spiritual grounding, and my Christian focus really keeps me centered in that way. But tapping into those sources and realizing that I'm here for a purpose to fulfill that, and God will equip me to do it as long as I'm willing to do what it takes to follow the instructions and go forth. And that gives me a greater vision. So it surpasses just being an entrepreneur or a business. You have a mission, and whatever it is, whether to start your own business or not.
Yes. Know yourself, know your purpose, and put that at the front of your business. That's or your career, whatever your career is, put that first. Put who you are first, and that will actually help you land a job. Side note. So, Emily, thank you so much for joining us. That was some wonderful insight. I love that. I love that, finding, grounding yourself and talking about the what was that term you used, Michaela? You just asked her about it to define it.
Grounding.
Grounding yourself like in your personality and in the present.
In your
moment.
personality, yes, that was kind of the terminology. I love that. I really thought that was spectacular. Thank you so much for sharing. We have for your exit, we've had somebody ask how to get hold of your book. So please tell us.
It's on Amazon, The Little Girl's Guide to Entrepreneurship, everybody. You can get it on Amazon, or you can visit my website, emilymchugh.com, and I have it there, also on my Custori website as well. But on Amazon is probably the easiest way.
And please connect with Emily. Again, her link is in the comments. Please connect with her on LinkedIn. She is a wonderful human being, phenomenal helper. And if you have any more questions about any of the wonderful ideas that she shared here today, I know that she'll be glad to help you out. So thank you again, Emily. Have a wonderful rest of the day.
Pleasure. Thank you so much.
Oh my goodness. Well, that was great. She gave some great insight. Yeah. And guys, the isolation factor right now, I know a lot of people still feel very isolated, but there are some wonderful, beautiful solutions to that. And actually, I think Anna's going to have some great insight. So let's go ahead and get her on here. There she is. Hello,
hi, everyone. How are you?
Great. I love your hair.
Oh,
it was so good.
It's out of control. I went platinum for the holidays, and now it's just going,
I love it.
Embracing my flair.
Do it. Just embrace it. I love it. And you have been on screen so much lately. You are everywhere.
That's why my eyes don't work anymore. I woke up when I turned 46 last week, and I literally have been making fun of my husband, and he's like, here you go. And now I can't see the comments or anything without wearing these. So
I know. I'm right there with you. I've been doing that myself, and I'm like, I can't even see. Like I just,
now I feel
my eyes are so big.
There we go.
Oh, there we go. Now everybody's got their
glasses on.
Yeah,
we all have our glasses.
It's
and Emily, I loved her glasses too. Like just side note, they were super colorful. So Anna, I mean, one of the most amazing things about you is to me is your backstory and kind of how you became the career BFF, right? So let's start with that. Let's start with your amazing story.
I mean, I don't even know if you know this or if I've told you the whole story, but I mean, I feel like being the career BFF started with getting sober from alcohol and building community in Alcoholics Anonymous and sticking with the winners and witnessing women that were laughing and showing up as their best self and were leaders and entrepreneurs, and they were still like living their best life. And it gave me so much hope that I could live the same life without alcohol and drugs. And so in May, I'll celebrate 10 years, which is crazy to think about.
Congratulations.
Coming up really fast. And, through that process, it's all about kind of peeling back those layers, right? And doing that inner work, addressing your character defects, taking your inventory, asking for help, right? And accepting that, you have a problem, and alcoholism is an ism, not a wasm. And it's a disease that we have to keep in check. And that ties into mental health and all areas of our lives, from being parents, employees, spouses. And, so through that work, then I continued to evolve in my yoga practice and other spiritual practices. I went to Costa Rica and went on this women's retreat. And that's where I had the quiet time to really get in touch with my heart's desire. And that's how Career BFF was born. And now I just am having the time of my life, showing up just unapologetically and serving job seekers and career changers in the ways that I do. And so much of a lot of the conversations that I have are around your mental health, right? I did several series about how do you avoid job search fatigue. And a lot of my questioning with my clients is what are you doing to take care of yourself? And I think during the pandemic, we have seen massive rises in suicide and addiction and other mental health problems. And it's really about asking for help and trying to find those resources to get the help that you need. And
100%.
I know personally, I've slacked on my meetings because they've been mostly virtual versus in person, and I'm a very in-person person. So
right. Yeah, 100%. I think that first of all, this ties into what we talked with Scott Frieda about at the beginning. So he hopped on. He has a TikTok thing that he does about recovery, which is
nice.
amazing.
I need to follow him.
You should. And he's an entrepreneur. He was actually one of my very first clients for Titan. So we've worked together for forever. He's actually joining the Titan team now, which is interesting and a lot of fun. And I think that, and people, again, I want to specify, because people hear recovery and they only think alcohol and drugs, but it could be from anything. It could be overeating, overworking.
Isms don't discriminate. It could be food, it could be sex, it could be shopping, it could be gambling, it could be obsessively just doing anything, right? It's
including working. That's an addiction. It's not okay.
Addiction is so it is absolutely one of the things that I was actually reading a little bit about that, because now that we're home, especially entrepreneurs, I've been guilty of it. You and I think we're corresponding on LinkedIn at like between 1 and 3 in the morning, which is not healthy.
We are not exhibiting good mental health practices right now.
Well, but it's because you can get in that like rabbit hole, and your sleep patterns, to Emily's point just a second ago. And, I do have the awareness now that I'm like, okay, like once in a blue moon, it's okay to have a late night, but I cannot make a habit of this, because it's a mechanism that we're looking to fill a void of something that we don't either want to look at or we don't want to face. And a lot of that comes from fear, but that's why it's so important. And one of the things that I was so blessed to learn, that even when that phone feels like 1,000,000 pounds, still pick it up, because if you're the person receiving that phone call, you are delighted to hold space for whatever is on the other side of that.
That was
I love the
really
phrase holding space. That is something I use very often with clients, with myself, and sometimes with friends, though, that can be.
Can you elaborate on that, Michaela, on what that means for viewers who may not quite know the term?
Well, Anna, you're the one who mentioned holding space. And so I first want to offer this, being able to define it to you, since you're the one who first mentioned it.
I mean, my idea of holding space is just being fully present and taking the cotton out of our ears and putting it in our mouth and just listening, right? And a lot of times when someone picks up the phone and just needs to talk, they just need to talk. They just need to know that they have a safe space where they will not be judged, that they know that there's compassion and support. A lot of times we're not looking, if I call you, Katherine, it's not necessarily I want you to solve my problem.
Right.
I also think in this pandemic, we've felt so isolated. We just need to be heard and seen. And
that's true.
That's kind of how I interpret like holding space and just being fully present for that person.
And I want to talk about that on the work front real quick. Oh, go ahead, Michaela. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I wanted to add one that you captured holding space beautifully. There's very, very much. There's just one thing I would like to add to that. And holding space, especially if we're talking about being on the workforce, being on the other side of the desk, as we've been discussing today, it's also a matter of not only holding space for the people you're working with, but holding space for your own inner experiences and how they may affect your ability to work with other people and hold their space, hold space for their experiences as well. So I just wanted to throw that caveat in there of that. I think it's important to hold, and that can be difficult because we're talking about a lot of space then that we can't really see on the screen. Yeah, a lot of space that we're having to hold. But I think that it's important because once you like capture your inner experience, then their space gets bigger. Like, oh, well, this person's coming too, so your space gets bigger. And honestly, what it really is acceptance. That's what we're really talking about here.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt.
That's okay. No, it's fine. That's important. That's important.
Especially in the workplace.
Yes. And that's exactly where I wanted to tie it in, is on the other side of that desk. So we talked about this with Jan as well. First of all, listen. Listen. If you are a manager, if you are an executive, whoever you are, if you're in HR, because a lot of people will go to HR with this type of thing, just sit and listen. And then just say, how can I help?
Mm-hmm.
Because maybe there's nothing, and that's okay. Maybe just you listening was what they needed. Maybe there is something that work-wise you can put into place to ease that burden just a little bit and help them to get through this. I also want to take this time to advocate very, very strongly for employers, small and large, to incorporate mental health solutions. Now, if you're not a big fat corporation, you probably can't afford to have a psychologist on staff, right? But maybe you can provide access to a phone line where they can call and just talk to somebody. Maybe you can use one of the text services, something like that, but just some kind of option for that. And also, and I like very much, I've seen this as a benefit in some smaller companies, mental health days.
Because we all have those days. Like, I mean, I remember last year I was completing yoga teacher training outside of my corporate job, and I was just feeling like just maxed, right? Because I had done training all weekend and I'd worked like Monday and Tuesday, and I knew I was just, again, not my best self. And I literally went to my manager and I was like, I need a mental health day. Like, and that awareness is key too, because I knew if I kept pushing myself that I wouldn't perform at my optimal level. My communication skills would be down. My head would be somewhere else. I was physically tired. So I just needed some time to reboot. And I would love to see, you know, more organizations, really advertise more what they offer. I do think a lot of corporations do have services to help people get into recovery. And I've listened in the room long enough to know that corporations do send employees but also little things like when the pandemic started, I heard about a corporation like paying for the Calm app to help people do little mini meditations. And, you know, companies don't have to spend like $1 gazillion on some of these health initiatives. It's more about the human to human checking in, and then little things that surprise and delight your employees, that let them know that you care and that their mental well-being and focus in that area is important.
Right. 100%. And I want to say too, one of the important things that you can do as a manager is if you see someone who is putting in way too much time when they are obviously exhausted and having a lot of things going on, go to them and say, thank you so much for everything that you're doing. I want you to go have a half day off. Just go, you do you, have your own space, turn off your work cell phone, do not check a single email, and just go rest. Rest. Because
so
rebooting, rebooting mentally is crucial. And I mean, you know, Dan Irvin, we talk about him a lot of the show. You know him, Anna. And one of the things I love about him is he actually, I know, I do too. Like, and he actually puts his breaks in his calendar and his schedule. I stole that from him. I do that. I put breaks in my calendar and specific things to do. Walk the dogs, you know, which you know, decompresses me, gets me moving, it gets me exercising. I put, you know, go look at the garden. I live next door to a beautiful garden, like a whole lot that's just a garden, and it's beautiful. It's like a jungle. And so I just have this beautiful lounge chair. I have this real nice lounge chair, and I just sit there and just look out at nature and just breathe.
I love it.
And you have to do things like that. You have to decompress your brain. And you know what happens? Like, to your point, Anna, I come back and I'm rejuvenated and I have fresh ideas and my energy is up and I'm actually more productive because I took those breaks. And I love some of those apps. Michaela, what are some other apps? Or Anna, either one of you, because I don't know these apps very well. So can y'all give some suggestions for apps?
I've heard about the calming one that Anna mentioned, because a lot of my kiddos at the middle school where I work use that. There's another one that's for anxiety. I forget exactly what it's called right now. But so Anna, you may have some other ones more than I do right now.
You know, I mean, I've kind of gotten to the point where I can do my meditation by myself. So I don't have a lot of expertise in that. But, you know, my other modalities are, just my own meditation, and then breath work, like you said, your exercise, which I call my me time, which is your meditation and exercise time. And being intentional and structuring your day with my clients, my one-on-one. I'm like, I want to see your schedule. I want to see, your carpool pickup, your intentional LinkedIn time, your applying for work time, your networking, your e-learning or certifications that you're doing, and then making sure there's equanimity and balance in those functions, because we don't want to burn out. And I think it's super smart for corporate full-time employees and entrepreneurs to try to adopt those same practices, so we can be
100%. Yeah. And Sophie, thank you very much, by the way, for this recommendation on this app, the Headspace app. Thank you so much. That would be a great one. Also, YouTube, guys, has some great videos to lead you through a meditation, lead you through breathing, lead you through relaxation. Now, if you are like me, since we're talking about mental health, and you sometimes have you get overstimulated. So that's part of being bipolar, is sometimes you're like, you're just kind of all over the place. Using grounding exercises is really helpful. This is helpful for people with anxiety. This is helpful for people who who have bipolar disorder, and multiple other things as well. Do things that are tactile and focus on those sensations. Listen to sounds. Focus on things that are reality, as they say. So look at, like, this tree has leaves and they are green and they are big, and just kind of walk yourself through different facts, and it will actually kind of reprogram your brain. And that really, really helps. Even if you're just really stressed out, those kinds of things are very, very helpful. And I am a huge advocate of yoga, because let me tell you, physically, it has healed me from a broken hip. I healed twice as fast as any doctor thought I would. Thank you, yoga. Amazing. And it has helped my mental health as well, to just stop, because it helps you to feel healthier, and that will obviously help you with your mindset as well.
Yeah, I mean, yoga is all about breath. If you, in the styles that I practice, you keep your mouth closed and you just breathe through your nose, and it heats your body from the inside out. And if you open your mouth, you're signaling to your body that you're in fight or flight. So it makes you really concentrate on your body and calming yourself to, take those big belly breaths while you're doing some of those, physical activities, and then literally turning yourself upside down and doing a forward fold or a wide leg forward bend is bringing it's changing the chemistry in your brain, and like moving all that blood around, which can also reset you. And to your point about grounding, I am super big about walking barefoot on the grass.
I do too.
Just like putting my hand on a tree or something like that, just to really connect with the earth and be reminded of, that my higher power and why I'm here, and just to settle in. So
I'd actually like to say real quick that for all of you listening, listening, there's a very much a neuroscientific basis for everything that's being said right now. There are evidence-based studies, and I have read several of them. I have cited several of them in my own research that I'm doing with some professors.
Would you mind citing them now, if you remember any off the top of your head?
Unfortunately, I don't. They're all like different names and stuff. I'm so sorry. But you're right. I should have brought that. That's my bad. But I did not be talking about it. But basically what they're saying is that you can actually change the wavelengths in your brain depending on how you breathe, depending on grounding yourself. And this is a way to actually just become aware of your own internal processes. And what happens is, when you do that, when you ground yourself, when you focus on your breathing, whether you're changing it or not, even just sitting here, focusing on your breath coming into your body and leaving your body, changes changes from alpha waves to beta waves, or vice versa. I think it might be the opposite, actually, but it changes, like you said, the chemistry in your mind. So I just wanted to throw out there that there actually is a neuroscientific basis to everything you said.
100%.
Of breath work. Breath work has, again, I kind of started that journey in Costa Rica, and it opened up so much clarity for me.
It does. It really does. I know exactly what you mean. It does change a lot about your focus, your mentality, your health, everything. It really does make a difference. And guys, if your mind is not healthy, your body will not be healthy, and vice versa. and vice versa. So you really need to be taking care of yourself all the way around. So Anna, what are your kind of final thoughts for us today?
Well, I mean, tying back into my experience with addiction and acceptance, right? Accepting that, I had a problem with alcohol, and that's a tough thing to say and to accept. And, it can be tricky in the workplace when there's, pre-COVID, lots of, still drinking lunches and happy hours and social events. And, the key thing is to remember that, we only have one life, and we have to be willing to take radical responsibility for our life and to kind of step over whatever people, jobs, situations to make ourselves a priority. And those of us that 100%. Have struggled with addiction, that's a foreign concept, right? Because we've oftentimes been people pleasers or different things, but acceptance is not a bad thing. Asking for help is, the way to go. And oftentimes it just starts with a little short sentence, and whoever is holding space for you can guide you in that next direction. So, I talk about my recovery. A lot of people are more, their anonymity is more important to them, and kind of tying back into what you said, it's not our place to ask about that.
Right.
But, it's tricky. And in this space that we're in, I just want people to know that my DMs are always open, and I'm sure yours are as well, that if anyone needs a recovery BFF, I am in to support them along that journey as well.
Wonderful. And thank you so much for coming on the show today, Anna, and being genuine as you always are.
Thank you
and sharing. Absolutely. Yeah. And guys, connect with Anna on LinkedIn. We've dropped her link in the comments. She is on the screen all the time, providing wonderful information. In fact, you have a busy schedule today. So everybody get on Anna's LinkedIn.
And I'm launching my 4-week land the interviews for real program. Enrollment ends next Wednesday. So if people want to level up working with recruiters, I've got all the insights to help them do that in our group program. So,
and I can vouch for her knowledge and her skills. So guys, if you do need help in that area, definitely connect with Anna. Thank you again. And we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you so much.
Namaste.
Oh my goodness. I just love her. I really do. Just so much. So next we're going to be bringing on a wonderful kind of new friend of mine that I met in the comments on LinkedIn.
You have all kinds of new friends.
I do. The joy of COVID is it forced us to meet all kinds of new people in creative and interesting ways. So, hold on. I'm going to cough to death. Here we go. Rubaica, I can't say your name. I just said Rubaica. It's Rubaica. I can't say it today. Why? I said it the other day like 5 times.
I'll answer to anything, Catherine. I'll answer to anything.
Oh my God. I literally said your name like 5 times the other day. I don't know why I can't say it right now.
Hi, Michaela. Catherine.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
So how do you pronounce your name?
Rubaica.
Rubaica. It's the second way I said it. The second way I said it. Yeah.
I answer to Rebecca. I answer to Becky. Whatever.
Oh no. I insist upon saying people's names properly. I insist upon it. So no, that's perfect. And I love it. We literally met on the comments in LinkedIn because we kept commenting on the same stuff, and it was like, well, we should obviously connect very clearly. We should be talking to each other.
Absolutely. And I loved your post, Catherine, that you had where you shared about yourself, and I was like. When you reached out, I said, "Oh my God, I am so thrilled that we're now connected."
Thank you so much. I think the one that she's referring to, there've been a couple like that. I think the one that she's referring to is the one where I talked about being a bipolar business owner, which it's my superpower. That's what I tell people. I actually don't mind it. So, so can you tell us first of all a little bit about you and what it is that you do?
Okay, so I am actually a physician and a psychotherapist. Mental health advocacy has been something I'm really passionate about, confronting stereotypes and biases and judgments. And so I decided to go to medical school. I thought that's how I'm going to fulfill my purpose. But, when I got out of medical school, I realized that wasn't my calling. And therapy is something that I love. And so I went on and got trained as a psychotherapist. And, long story short, here I am. And
voila.
Well, how cool. I actually had no idea that you were into psychotherapy and that you're actually a counselor.
yes.
Where do you, what sorts of populations do you work with?
So currently I'm actually working as a career development practitioner, which is very interesting. I've been doing this for a few years now. And it's allowed me to work with job seekers and career transitioners. And I'm a career transitioner myself. So it's really exciting to work with people that are doing that. But I also worked in the States. And at that point, I was working with addicts. I worked in a prison in Kansas for 4 years with convicts.
That's the one that fascinated me. I was like, what?
Yes. So mental health addictions, as I said, mental health advocacy is huge. I've always been very passionate about raising awareness. And I think now the discussion needs to be about connecting people with resources.
Yes. 100%.
We see people, standing up and saying, yes, I'm struggling with this. But then the question is, what do we do? How can I get?
What do we do about it?
Support? Yeah.
100%. 100%. And as somebody who has mental illness, I don't like to use the word struggle because to me it puts a handicap.
Mm-hmm.
But I have mental illness and it's okay. And I always tell people it's no different. In fact, I've used this analogy with Michaela in our discussions before. It's no different than your pinky. Okay, guys, I want to put that on out there. We're going to destigmatize this. Mental illness does not define you. I am not bipolar disorder.
It's not a label.
It's not a label. Like you don't go to somebody and go, you have a pinky. That's who you are. No, this is just a part of you. This is just a part of the whole. This is not
whole. There you go.
Does not make up. This is a piece of the whole. So we're going to get that right on out of the way. This is not going to define you. But yes, the resources and making sure that you have access to them. Guys, there are plenty that you can do, whatever your comfort zone is. In fact, Michaela and I just had a conversation about this, that different people's comfort zones are different things, all different things. So what works for one will not work for the other. And round and round we go. So from our two mental health professionals, here we go. I'm going to ask you a few questions and I want to give you each a chance to answer them because I'm very excited about it. So we're going to start with you, Rubaica. I'm sorry, I'm going to cough myself to death, but allergies. Michaela and I are both struggling. She keeps throwing herself into mute, guys, to like sneeze and stuff. I'm over here coughing to death. It's not good. It is. I just wanted to let everybody know it's not COVID. Okay, do not worry. We are always like this time of year. Do not worry about it. All right, so we're going to do some kind of roundtable here. So let's start with when somebody is starting to feel the symptoms of something, right? They're starting to realize maybe something's going on that's a little bit more than just your regular stress. Mm-hmm. What would you recommend, each of you, as the next step or a great way to start the process of figuring out what's going on?
So I think for me, and I think I've heard other guests say this on the show as well, Katherine, Michaela, it's that having a self-awareness, right? Really getting in tune with your thoughts, with your feelings, using one of the things that I always talk about with people is we need to be more proactive with our mental health rather than being reactive. We wait until things get really bad and then we want to, support, right? Guilty of doing that. I'm guilty of doing that as well.
It's like, well, now I'm having a mental breakdown, so now I'm going to do something about it. Don't wait. Don't wait. Yes, we all know. Michaela and I have both done that. We've both been like, well, now I've just fallen apart.
Yeah, so now what? Sorry, continue.
Now what? Yeah, go ahead.
And maybe there might be some things that we might be able to put into place by ourselves to take care of whatever is going on with stress, maybe thinking about what is causing the stress, right? Going to the root cause, maybe some strategies we're incorporating, right? Which falls in with self-care, taking care of our physical, our mental, our spiritual needs, but also realizing that this is like any kind of a physical symptom that you'd have, that it is okay to talk to people about it. If I got to go and see a professional, that is okay. This is the one I tell people. We don't feel bad about going to the doctor saying I got the flu. Why do we shy away from talking to professionals or people about the fact that, I'm struggling with stress. I'm feeling a little overwhelmed right now. I'm feeling, I'm not quite feeling myself. Why do we have to hide that?
Right. And even saying my moods are erratic or things like that. And a lot of people don't realize too that a lot of mental illnesses have a physical, in fact, basically all of them have a physical component. There are hormones that are askew. There are parts of the brain that are not functioning properly. It is still a physical ailment.
Yes.
Well, we're holistic beings. I mean, the mind is not separate from the body. Emotions are not separate from the mind or body. We feel all of these things together, so it makes sense that they're interconnected.
Yes.
Right. 100%.
I think also like the self-acknowledgement, I think self-compassion, self-love. That was another thing I wanted to bring up is this is February, it's Valentine's Day, and we're all going up and buying flowers and chocolates. How about doing something nice for yourself, right? I mean,
it's funny. My husband and I do not celebrate Valentine's Day. We don't. But we, but you're right.
For yourself.
But yeah, that's what I was going to say. But celebrate. And actually the reason is, and my husband's always thanked my father for this. My dad always made it such a big daddy-daughter day that's what stuck in my head. So, so it has a different connotation for me, but still do things for yourself. And like I celebrate my birthday every year. I do something for me.
Exactly.
Every time.
Exactly.
And I take time to do those things to celebrate the wins along the way as well. So is that kind of what you're talking about? Just taking that little time.
Yes.
Well, this sort of goes into what I was going to say for my roundtable response, if you don't mind me jumping in real quick. Well, just so you know, Rubaica, I'm very much on the experiential side of counseling. So I'm very much Gestalt, if you know anything about those theories.
I love that. Empty chair.
Oh yes, that's what everyone knows about Gestalt. Yes, but very much in line with the empty chair. What I tend to do is invite clients, and what I do for myself is to just sit down with yourself, invite yourself up for some tea. Like, really, really say what's going on. Like you start having those symptoms, and the gut reaction as a human being is an animal. Let's just say as a human animal is to want to escape discomfort, is to want to escape pain. Of course it is. That's how we are programmed. But to just sort of relax into that process, hold space for it, as Anna mentioned, and just allow it and say, okay, I'm not dying. This is here right now. What's going on? So that's what I would suggest.
That's a great way to start. That's a great way to start the process. So let's say you've started it, you've started that conversation with yourself. Then you go to the mental health professional because you're right. You have to take that step sometimes and go to basically a doctor, right? It's no different. Just go in and have that kind of mental checkup. So let's say you've done that. Now you need to put a process in place, like we talked about with Anna, put that process in place of every single day. And Scott talked about this too at the beginning of the show. Have a process every single day, have things in place to change behaviors, to change all that, to create better, healthier habits. So let's talk about what that looks like and actually putting that into action. Let's start with Michaela on this one.
Oh, okay. Well, the first thing that popped into my mind is that, I just mentioned escaping and wanting to escape pain. And one thing that I work with clients a lot on actually is not trying to change it, is not trying to change habits, but to recognize them, to notice them, and to what I say is play with options for other ways they can do for themselves, even with it's sort of like holding space. It's holding space for the thing that you maybe want to change eventually, the thing that might be creating some issues, and then also bringing in some other options and saying, okay, so this is here. This is my gut reaction. Maybe I want to drink alcohol. Maybe that's what I want to do. And there's some other options I could play with too. Like maybe I'll go on a walk with my dog. Maybe I'll see, am I hungry? Am I tired? Am I, I think there's like with the HALT process, I think there's like 4 different ones. So you're familiar, you're working with addiction. I'm sure you're familiar with HALT.
Hungry, angry, lonely, tired.
That's what it is. Hungry, angry, lonely, tired. So yeah, just you playing with options is one of the things I would suggest to work into your schedule, and just seeing how else might I be able to respond to the needs that have come up that I sat down and spoke with and said, what's going on? But yeah, that I'm going to wrap up there.
Okay, very good. What about you, Rubaica? What do you think?
I think for me, again, that self-care, I think a lot of people take it as a luxury. It's not a luxury. It should
Yes.
be made a priority. And everything that you're doing, as I said, for your physical, mental, and spiritual needs. And because today's topic is about the workplace, a couple of things, and I think you alluded to it, Catherine, when you talk about taking mental health days. And not taking mental health days when you're kind of at the end of your rope, but just
Right.
take them to relax, to rejuvenate, to reset. And
Yes.
keeping those gains going. The other thing also is a lot of companies, they offer benefits, and a lot of people don't know their benefits. Go get a massage,
Sure.
go to the chiropractor, take advantage of all of this. Yeah, do something nice for yourself. I also think it's really important when you're thinking about emotional self-care, practicing gratitude. I'm huge with practicing gratitude and being grateful for what you have today. Started out in the morning, maybe before you go to bed at night, and affirmations is another thing. I
Yes.
think that keeps me going, right? One of my favorite ones is I can and I will, and I am
Right.
worthy, and I am valued, right? And I can do this, and I'm a
Right.
warrior.
100%. Yeah.
Well,
And that tenacity is extremely important. That's extremely important to hold on to that and to keep that boldness. And even when you're feeling insecure, to go, no, I am this way and I can get through this, even though this is scary or this is, not the best situation. I can get through this. So I want to ask the final question is, so we're talking about the workplace and how to apply it. So a lot of times in the workplace, people feel the need to keep everything bottled up because it's work and it is separate from personal. I do want to, I do want to read it. It is separate from personal. Okay. Don't bring all your drama in, but if you're having a real problem, okay, a real mental stress, a real trauma, anything like that, what are the ways that you would recommend approaching management, HR, whoever, to ask for help? And how would you ask people to go about that? And Rubaica, we'll start with you on that one. And we got to keep it quick, guys, because we only have 3 more minutes. So.
Okay. So one of the things is a lot of workplaces have the employee assistance program. So that is a great way, and it's anonymous. HR doesn't even know if you're calling in to that service. So definitely taking advantage of that. The other thing also, I think, Catherine, you alluded to it, is as managers, and I've had that happen in the workplace for myself, is like my manager notices I'm overwhelmed and they'll pull me aside and they'll have a chat, and maybe you need to kind of take a day off or a couple of days off, and I think even with colleagues, checking in with each other, I think that is so, so crucial. And I think that even in this virtual space that we are in, you can check in on your colleagues. At my workplace, we tend to have meetings 3 days of this 5-day week. In the morning, we meet for about 20 minutes and we do like meditations or we do motivational meetings. And so we're so
really cool.
Build those relationships where even if we're struggling with something, we have enough of trust that we can open ourselves up to our colleagues. So it's really about the workplace culture as well and connecting.
Absolutely, 100%. And I just want to throw a reminder out there. You are still not entitled to somebody's trauma. Ask them how they're doing. Ask if you can help. Do not push for details, please. And then Michaela, real quick, what's your response to that one?
Actually, you hit the nail on the head, Rubaica. I don't have anything else to really add to that. Though I did want to make real quick a comment on what you said about gratitude, if that's okay with you guys.
Yeah.
Because I think it's very important, because you were talking about showing gratitude for the things that you experience. I entirely agree. And what I wanted to tack onto that just real quick is also showing gratitude for anxiety, showing gratitude for sadness, and showing gratitude for anger, the things that maybe
it's all part of the process.
Exactly. And they're all doing something for you. Anger usually comes out to defend us. Anxiety comes out to protect us. And numbness comes out to protect us from our own emotional pain. So I just wanted to throw that out there as
100%. And I want to add real quick to that last roundtable, and that's 100% right, Michaela. And remembering that all of these things are just part of your natural responses, I think, is really important. It's nothing to be embarrassed about or ashamed about. It's all part of our nature, and everybody has these feelings and emotions. And I want to throw out there too, if you want to approach your manager and you feel like you need help, the best thing to do is just call them aside and say, I just wanted to let you know I'm going through some things personally. So if you see something going on, please come and talk to me about it. Let's put a plan in place. Have a suggestion and just say, if you notice my work performance slipping or anything, I don't want that to happen. Please come to me and let's put a plan in place. And I am being mindful of it, and just address the elephant in the room and let them know what's going on. You'll be really surprised how compassionate most managers will be in that situation, right?
Absolutely.
So on that note, I want to thank you, Rubaica, for coming on. We
thank
flew
you so
through your segment. I do not feel like it's been 20 minutes, but it has. And we did drop your link in the comments prior to the show. So guys, if you want to connect with her, please connect with her on LinkedIn. Trust me, you will benefit from that. She is absolutely wonderful, one of a kind. Any final words for us that you want to throw out there to the audience?
I think one of the things that I've been kind of following since last year is being on this journey of authenticity. So one thing that I can definitely recommend to everybody is start your own journey of authenticity. Be as authentic as you are, because, everything we've been talking about, creating those relationships, having the support that you need, that can only happen when we're authentic and we're honest with ourselves.
Right. And honesty with yourself is paramount. So thank you again, Rubaica. Have a wonderful rest of the day, and I'm sure we'll talk again soon.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you, guys.
So nice to meet you.
I love her. She's so great. And she tied in perfectly to our final segment with Miss Alma, who we're going to get into a little bit more sensitive topics with this one, guys. So just a little bit of a warning. We're going to get a little bit more personal, a little bit more sensitive about this stuff. We're going to be diving into some of the issues with LBGTQ and what they're experiencing right now and some of the different things going on there. But let's go ahead and bring in Miss Alma, who is joining us from Mexico.
Hi.
Oh, you're on mute, dear. There she is.
Hello.
Hello. And this is the day for glasses. Everybody's having glasses on today. Oh, we have a question.
Program. Oh.
You did. Wait, hold on real quick. I just want to respond to this before we dive into it. It says, from Lisbeth, I'm interested on a mental health awareness career. I had a breakdown at work and didn't know what it was. After that, I thought I might have reacted differently had I known about mental illness. If Michaela, you're in the mental wellness career, how would you recommend that somebody research that and get into it? Just real quick.
To find out how to start a counseling career?
Or just mental, because there's all different kinds of mental wellness
just
careers.
Do a Google search for maybe some schools in your area and see what programs they offer. Go talk to some professors. Oh my gosh, I love talking to my professors. Just sit down with them and have a conversation. Honestly, it's a lot like interviewing for a job. Just sit down and see what sparks your interest, and maybe even do some research into the different fields you find. Look up some YouTube videos about people who work in that field. Yeah, right. I think that's a 100% place to start.
It is. And also look into certifications, things like that. If you're just wanting to raise awareness, that type of thing. There's all different kinds of things that you can do. So start with Google, then go out and talk to people that actually do it. Get on LinkedIn, reach out to people in those fields, see what really strikes you. So Alma, you're muted again, doll.
I didn't want my typing to.
You're good. You're good. We just talked about that today. I was just giving her cred because we were just talking about that the other day. So I want to end the show talking about kind of a more sensitive topic that you and I have discussed. And that is how mental wellness in the workplace is impacting, or lack of workplace right now is impacting the LBGTQ community very specifically. And the reason, guys, that I am bringing this up on the show is that a lot of people do not realize the level of suicide, the level of depression, the level of just severe detachment and isolation that a lot of these people are suffering, even more so than the average quote citizen. So I just want to kind of touch on this for just a little bit. So first of all, let's talk about how COVID has hit that community even harder. Alma, what are some of your thoughts? I know you're a big advocate.
Yeah. So first of all, thank you, Katherine and Michaela, for having me on today. And yeah, mental health is, I think it's an issue that concerns every human being. So whether you identify as LGBTQI plus or not, it's something that should be of concern and interest to you. And I think where the issue around work and jobs and employment impacts the LGBTQ community, I think it's on one level, it's pretty much the same in the sense that just like anyone else, we can be looking for a role or in between roles. Maybe we were let go from our previous role because of COVID. It all depends on what area we're in. I'm a technology worker. I transitioned from education into tech, thanks to actually lesbians who code. And one of the things that I have seen with my community is that we're like everyone else in the sense that this is impacting us. But then you have the other layer to that is, as a job seeker, do you want people to know how you identify?
Right.
You know, are you, is this something that you're embracing? Are you out? Are you not out? It has so much to do with, you know, on a global level, what country do you live in? What society are you living your life in? Right. And I consider myself very fortunate that as an American, as a US citizen, I feel I have those protections, I quote unquote, to be able to identify openly LGBTQ. Right. However, I know that's not the experience for everybody. And especially when you have younger people who are coming out or just discovering their sexuality that might not have a family that is supportive, that is such, still to this day, such a big issue that we face when it comes to mental health. And as someone who I came out a little bit later in life, I also struggle with that because it is still an issue for my family. Not for me, and I have kids. It's not an issue for me and my kids, but for my family at large, they still have issues with it, and those are their issues, not mine. But I've been able to overcome that through a lot of work, as some of your past guests mentioned, creating that support network, doing a lot of inner work, taking radical accountability for what I need to do. And a lot of that has been therapy.
I love that term. Hold on, I want to pause that real quick. Radical accountability.
Yeah.
Because guys, ultimately, any journey that you go on with your mental health or even your physical health is going to be you, and things that you have to change and things that you have to take responsibility for and do.
Yeah.
You know, that it's true. And I'm glad that you brought that up, because that is so huge. And I wonder if, and please feel free to tell us if you've had an experience with this that you feel comfortable sharing. I wonder what the similarity is between someone talking about their mental illness to people at work and coming out, and if it's a similar type experience or if it's very different. Do you?
Well, considering that, correct me if I'm wrong. Isn't it called the general diagnostic, the GSM? Is it the GSM or the DSM?
The diagnostic statistical manual, yes.
So I remember my mom did when I was a teenager, and she went back to school, in New York, where I'm from. And she had this educational psychology book, and it identified homosexuality as a mental illness. And we are now on the same page. It's not a mental illness. You are who you are. But I think where mental health is concerned, and if you're struggling with any kind of mental health issues, or you've been diagnosed with mental illness, to be able to talk about that in the workplace, I think is just as a difficult subject as it might be for people who are not quite sure if they're ready to be out.
Right.
So I think, again, it comes back down to that one person. Don't feel like you have to, like it's you're obligated. And that is why radical accountability is so important, because we need to learn to protect ourselves. We need to learn to be our own advocates. And that's why I think it's so incredibly important to build a support network. So again, coming back to the topic of LGBTQ, as somebody who identifies in that community and in the process that I've gone on, and the journey that I've traveled in coming out, building my support network was so important. And it's something that I continue to foster to this day. I am actively involved in different organizations that provide me with that support network. So both professional organizations as well as more personal. So for example, GLAAD has a lot of local support groups that I joined the Austin chapter because I'm binational. So I go, pre-COVID, I was a little bit more between countries, but for example, we have in Austin, we have a bunch of different support groups all over the city that they've all gone online now. So if if you live in Austin or you live in Chicago or wherever, and something doesn't fit for you for scheduling reasons, you can find other support groups
virtually.
So you want to have that support network. And going back to your question about work, does your work have an employee resource group? That can be such an important, powerful tool for you to use. If you don't have an employee resource group, maybe reach out to HR or perhaps operations, whoever.
And ask.
Yeah, ask if you
what
can
you
maybe
can do.
help start one. Exactly.
Yeah, have some initiative. And I want to talk about real quick, because this is something that I am really big on, is self-education. Okay. And we're going to talk about this from the other side. Okay. So guys, when you are in the workplace, and especially if you're a hiring manager or an entrepreneur or whatever the manager, whatever the case is, you need to have an understanding of other human beings and their experiences, in at least enough to be able to work with them in an effective and positive manner, right? So you need to understand, you need to educate yourself, you need to learn. So if, let's say, you get an employee and they identify as non-binary, this is something I'm currently learning about. So I'm probably annoying the crud out of poor Madison Butler and her partner, because they have a whole podcast about this, and they do a lot of education. And I have a million bajillion questions because I don't understand. It's not my personal experience. So I want to learn. And I do the same thing with the transgender community, because that's not my experience. So I want to learn, I want to understand. So I do a lot of research, and I reach out to people and I talk to them and I learn their experiences. And if you're in management or entrepreneur or HR or anything else, that is your responsibility, guys. I just want to put that out there. That is your responsibility, to come to the point that you have an understanding of your employees and what's going on with them. Again, you're not entitled to their whole story. You're not, not all of that, but educate, because that's how you overcome biases in your head, and biases, and that radical responsibility. It is your responsibility to eradicate your own biases and your own negative outlooks. And your responsibility.
Yeah. And I mentioned GLAAD. I made a mistake. I meant PFLAG. So this is a great right here. This is my chapter of Austin, but PFLAG, just visit the website. It's going to have a lot of information regarding, these questions that you have around non-binary folks, transgender folks, just people in the LGBTQ community. PFLAG is a wealth of information, and you, Katherine, can attend a support group. Like you can go. You don't have to identify as LGBTQ to go. You can go and say, hey, I'm trying to learn more. I'm here because of I work with non-binary folks, or I work with transgender folks, and I want to be a better ally. I want to support them better. So I understand that starts with me. I'm here to educate myself. And Google's free. So you can always Google.
But Google will only get you so far with these subjects. Let me tell you, I know this from personal experience. Google will only get you so far. So do Google, YouTube, TikTok can be kind of interesting. Instagram, learn, get out there and don't insert your opinions. And you can have your opinions. That's, everybody has opinions about different things, but as long as it's an educated one, then you're entitled to. I tell people you're not entitled to have an uneducated opinion. That's just a reaction. You're entitled to have an educated opinion about something, but go understand other people. And this will help you with everything in your life. Understand the other side, understand what's going on. If you're ignorant in this day and age, it's because you choose to be. Let's just put that on out there. Unless you live in some remote part of the world that has no internet, you're choosing ignorance. And that's just beyond me. But learn, understand, and reach out to people and have a human understanding for what they're going through. Because we've talked about on the show today, isolation. That's horrible. It's a horrible thing to do. That's a form of torture, is extreme isolation. So if somebody is experiencing isolation, they're having a trauma. Okay. And they need help, and they need allies, and they need somebody to listen to them. If somebody is feeling disenfranchised, which I've spoken to some members of the LBGTQ community who use that word a lot, disenfranchised, disconnected, removed. And that's another really bad feeling, because as human beings, even the introverts like myself, we're still made to be social. We're still made to connect. And so feeling that you're removed is a really painful experience for a human being. That is a horrible experience.
It's devastating.
Yes. And yet that's why we still continue to have these high levels of suicide among people of the LGBTQ community, because there continues to be a lot of ignorance, a lot of judgment, a lot of rejection from families of origins. As a mother, as a parent myself, I cannot imagine ever telling my child some of the things that I've heard from my own mother because of my sexuality. I mean, it blows my mind. And unfortunately, it's still an issue that we are dealing with. I think that support network is so incredibly vital, especially when you talked about with isolation. And if you want to, learn, if you're interested in learning, I really do think it starts with yourself. It starts with one. So
100%.
I also, another point that I would really like to drive home is the importance of nourishing a contemplative self-development practice. So you're only as good as you're willing to be for yourself. So that, for me, that looks like, doing the deep work with the therapy, but also I have a regular meditation and yoga practice, and I've been developing it for years. And when I fall off and I didn't do yoga today, and instead of going down that hole of you're a bad person because you didn't do yoga, practicing that compassion for myself. And if I do that
give yourself grace. Give yourself grace.
If I do that for myself, I can do it for others. So when I'm faced with somebody on the internet who is ignorant and hateful and homophobic and racist, I can have that grace for them, in the sense that I understand that they're speaking from a place of self-hate.
Right.
Because if they love themselves, if they truly accepted themselves, they wouldn't be doing that. And that's why I one of the final things that I would say is just be really selective of the information you consume. And that goes along with who are the gurus, who are the teachers you're listening to for your self-development. I am a big supporter of the holistic psychologist.
Yes. And I want to throw this, I want to throw this out there real quick, guys, because I literally just did a post about this, and I've talked about this on the show before. In fact, I talked about it with Tara Furiani when she came on the show, last show. Pay attention to your sources. Mm-hmm. If a source is obviously biased, for instance, if you're looking up LBGTQ, And this is nothing against religious publications in general, but that's not going to be your best source of information. Honestly, sound a little bit controversial here. I don't usually go to a lot. I do some. I don't go to a lot of LBGTQ publications to get my LBGTQ facts, like my actual, like the numbers. I go there to learn about the mentality and all of that, but I don't go there for my facts. I go directly to like government sources. I go directly to study groups. What's the group? I just cited them on something. Oh, hold on. I've got them right here. Haha. I'm gonna pull this out here. So the Human Rights Council. There you go. Mm-hmm. That's a good group. That's a great group to get very unbiased, factual information on this type of thing. And it is hard, by the way, to get LBGTQ stats and numbers. It's very hard. There's not a lot of this being tracked, which is very interesting to me.
Governments, like I said, governments are made up by people, and people are biased.
Right, 100%.
However non-biased we try to be, as someone who's worked in academic research, we're human beings. We have a bias. And so that's why it's so important to be able to replicate studies, scientifically speaking.
But research your research, right? Make sure that you're going to credible sources and cite your sources. Anytime you're going to put out a fact, cite that source and put out how you know that it's valid. This is very, very important. But do research, learn, and be an advocate for human beings, because somebody else's lifestyle is not your business. As long as they're not hurting other people and, going around raping people or murdering people, it's not your business. It's not. And so hating someone based on who they are as a person, whether it's religion, whether it's sexual orientation, whether it's gender identity, whether it's gender itself, that doesn't help anybody, including yourself, at all. So thank you so much, Alma, for coming on and sharing with us and helping us grow today. I really, really appreciate you. Any final thoughts for the audience?
For my final thoughts, I just invite you that when you do go and you go to the social media and you're interested in looking for information from people in the LGBTQ community, remember that we're also humans, and we can also be biased. And I say this only because there are, people in the LGBTQI+ community who have very different opinions on certain subjects and topics. Mm-hmm. I'm personally I'm a very political person. I have a degree in international relations, and I feel very passionate about politics. And that doesn't mean that my politics are going to be the same as someone else who identifies as LGBTQ. Right. So we are human beings. And so, get a broad selection and listen actively to people in the community so you can learn.
100%. Thank you so much, Alma. And guys, again, if you want to connect with Alma, if you want to learn from her, if you want suggestions from her, anything like that, please connect with her on LinkedIn. Her link is down in the comments. Thank you, and have a wonderful rest of the day.
Twitter. I'm on Twitter.
Oh, and Twitter. And she's on Twitter too. So look her up on Twitter too.
Handlebar Alma Rinasz.
That's nice and easy. All right. We'll see you later. Thank you.
Bye.
Oh my goodness.
What a powerful segment to end with. There was a lot of very deep discussion in there, and I heard a lot of isolation for the LGBT community when she was talking about taking personal responsibility. I think one thing that can happen a lot with the LGBTQ community is shame around the stigma. We're talking a lot
and not
about
in themselves. I want to clarify. I like how you said that, because you specified not in themselves, but in the stigma, the way that everybody else responds to them.
Well, and that becomes mistakenly directed at themselves. And that's what shame is, what a lot of times leads to suicide. It's this feeling that I'm not good enough, I'm worthless because of who I am as a person. And that's what shame is, and that's what leads to suicide. And that's why suicide is so prevalent among the LGBTQ+ community, because these stigmas are not addressed adequately enough.
No, they're not.
And so I was really glad to have Alma on just then. And so I think what I wanted to say then is it's about taking healthy responsibility for yourself.
Right. healthy. And I want to throw out, because I love my stats. And so we're going to throw out a few stats here. And these are taken from a survey that was done with it was a combination of efforts, the National Task Force, it's the LBGTQ Task Force, National Transgender Survey, and there's a few other, like a coalition that participated and things like that. But from that study, the LBGTQ community has, and specifically the transgender community, very specifically the transgender community, has 26% unemployment. 34% of them make 10K or less. 49% of them have attempted suicide. Not thought about it, attempted. 49%. And let me tell you why this matters in the workplace and how this affects us in the workplace. These are talented human beings. These are people that have things to offer in the workplace. And when an employer sees a transgender person and rejects them, that's contributing to this situation. I just want you to stop and think about that before you let your biases seep in to your decision making. Just because somebody is different or somebody has something else going on, even, and the same thing with mental illness. And I don't want to liken that to the transgender experience, but this also applies to mental illness. Discarding someone because of something that's just a part of the whole is not only a disservice to your company, it creates a destructive pattern inside of that person, because what you're telling them is you don't have value because of this one little itty bitty piece of who you are. You don't have value. And that's a disgusting message to send.
Yeah, it is.
It is. So hold on. Sorry, tech issues. Anyway, I don't want to land on a negative note, though. We learned a lot of good information today, a lot of great ideas, a lot of great resources.
I was going to say, I have a few more resources if
real quick, because we only have a few more minutes. So let's end on some resources.
So just resources for contacting a counselor if you want to get one, if you're interested in therapy at all. Internet, we've talked a lot about the internet. Look for counselors in your area, and be sure to also just explore their pages, see who they are, see what modalities they use, what's going to work for you. Facebook, there's actually a lot of groups on Facebook that you can reach out to, like state counseling organizations that are that, like, for whatever state you're in, just look up that state counseling association, and now that will come up, and you can actually ask counselors in your state who you should go to, what like sort of describe your problem if you want. You don't have to. Other than that, if you are religious or spiritual at all and you're looking for a counselor, you can go to ASERVIC, the Association for Spiritual and
how do you spell that?
ASERVIC. Anyway, I've got to jump off. I'm sorry, I'm getting a call, but it was so great to be on.
Thank you. Bye. Thank you so very much. Bye, Michaela. So thank you, everybody, for joining us today. We had a great show. I really, really, truly enjoyed the experience today. Thank you to all of the guests. If you have any questions about anything that was said today, please reach out. Everybody's link is in the comments. Thank you, everybody. Stay mentally healthy. Give yourself grace, and we'll see you for the Women in Business episode in 2 weeks. Bye.